Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the Marketplace. Coming up this afternoon, Finance Ministry links latest economic growth numbers to interventions undertaken by government aimed at stabilizing the economy. Also coming up, government says it is working with various financial institutions to increase trade finance to support small and medium enterprises.
Consolidates the country's position as a leading hub for entrepreneurship to leverage the opportunities offered by a fully integrated AFCFTA market that will have an estimated 6.7 trillion of combined customers.
Plus, thousands of job seekers thronged the Independence Square here in Accra for a jobs and entrepreneurship fair by the Youth Employment Agency. We'll speak with Sheriff Gali, Chief Executive of the Chamber for Young Entrepreneurs. My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for joining us. Details coming up. And thanks for staying with us, everyone. The Finance Ministry says the latest economic growth numbers can be linked to measures implemented by government to stabilize the economy. There's more from a statement issued by the ministry on the second quarter GDP estimates.
The Finance Ministry argued that the robust economic recovery is also due to interventions that government has implemented, especially under the IMF program. It also believes that the growth numbers posted for the first half of this year is worth commending due to the fact that it is coming on the back of the debt exchange program and the challenging global economic recovery. The Ministry of Finance maintained that the growth numbers posted for the first half of this year is much higher and better than what other countries have posted that have gone this path. Government in the statement also promised that it will continue to prioritize the restoration and sustainability of the economy, which is necessary in the promotion of what it describes as inclusive growth. The Finance Ministry added that the implementation of government growth strategy, including programs like the Planting for Food and Jobs, will consolidate recent gains to improve the lives of Ghanaians.
All right, let's bring in economist Professor Patrick Isuming. Good afternoon to you, sir. First off, there is already some argument about how this data was computed to reach a growth rate of 6.9%. The government statistician saying at yesterday's presser that it was influenced by production output rather than consumer spending patterns. Explain to our audience what this is.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to viewers. Thanks for having me. So, there are three ways that we compute the GDP. There is the GDP by production, which is essentially the primary means that the Statistical Service uses. But you can also do GDP by expenditure and GDP by incomes. I think when you do GDP by production, that's where you're able to say which sectors are contributing what. But when you look at it GDP by expenditures, then you'll be able to say, so the GDP, when we produce it, how is it used and how is it purchased? So consumers buy some for household consumption. Businesses buy some of what we produce and use it. That's the business fixed investment. Then government units also buy some. And there are some that we sell abroad. And then, of course, some of what we spend money on, we also import it. That's the net export. So when you use the production approach to compute the GDP, you can actually break it down in terms of the expenditures, the expenditure patterns, who is buying what you've produced. I think that is what explains why the Statistical Service, the government statistician says that it's production, not consumption. So because if you look at the consumption disaggregation, you realize that compared to previous quarters, actually private household consumption has declined a little bit. So I think that's where that statement comes from.
All right. So what does this outcome say about the state of our economy right now? We just had the Finance Ministry taking a victory lap, touting its interventions. What does it say about the state of our economy?
Well, I think it's definitely the case that the growth rate that we've seen is much higher than most projections. And it's the strongest growth we've seen in a long time. I think for 60 quarters or so, this is the highest single quarter growth we've seen. And combined with what we saw in the first quarter, this is like, in terms of a half year, this is really strong. And I think the other thing to note is that so in the first quarter, when we said it was 4.7, we did see about 6 of the 20 subsectors have seen a contraction. This time, the number of sectors that have seen a contraction has reduced. I think it's only 3 subsectors that saw contraction. So even if you break it down, you begin to see that this growth number is much, much stronger than we expected or we've seen. But I think to jump on that, to sing the song that we are back, we are in recovery, and that, I think it's too much of a stretch to put too much emphasis on that. Let's wait and see how we end the year. But definitely, this is a positive number.
All right, and just to be fair, so what is the government doing right that is showing this growth that we saw in the second quarter?
Well, I think, there are some sectors that government play a prominent role, and there are some sectors that private sector play a prominent role. I think if you begin to disaggregate by sectors, then you will see. I think one thing that I will highlight that probably we might give some credit to government is the electricity production sector. Granted, the electricity subsector, its overall contribution to GDP is not that big, but we know that its contribution is not just how much is being produced, but the fact that the absence of it really affects industry and ability to, especially the manufacturing sector. And for the first time in a lot of quarters, indeed, in 2022, the electricity production contracted. Last year, it saw a huge contraction. The first quarter was another huge contraction, but this time we've seen a strong recovery. And I think we can see that, electricity production is not something you can hide. When it wasn't doing well, we also the lights were not staying on. It appears that, especially in the second quarter, the lights has been on, and the electricity production numbers do support that. But outside of that, I think some of for instance, the biggest subsector that grew, which was, I believe, mining and quarrying, these were new mines that have come on stream. And I think we need to take note of that. But there are some other sectors also that haven't done well. I think water and sewage suffered, and we all know where the problem is. But importantly, we see that an important sector like cocoa has seen a 26% decline. That's quite catastrophic. I think that's really problematic. So overall, the number and even some of that disaggregation shows positive numbers, but I think we shouldn't conclude that we are out of the woods. We are by no means out of the woods.
And Prof, what's the point if it's not reflecting in the improvement of the standard of living of people? Isn't that the bottom line?
Absolutely, and I think that's where the Finance Ministry statement did mention inclusive growth, but there's nothing about this number that shows that there's inclusive growth. I think we have to take the point that the government association made about what it's doing for consumption. It doesn't mean that people are consuming more. We've also seen, even though the inflation rate has come down, we still see inflation rate is still relatively high. But one thing to note is that if you take some of the big sectors, oil, and then also mining and quarrying, you realize that Ghanaian participation in those sectors tend to be low. And when those sectors are the ones leading the growth, then its impact on ordinary Ghanaians tend to be lower. So I think we also have to consider the employment elasticity of the growth. How much does the increase in growth promote jobs? And I think those are the important things for ordinary Ghanaians. But you can still say, yes, this is a positive number, but you shouldn't base on that and conclude that we are out of the woods. We are by no means out of the woods.
So where do we go from here? What do we do with these figures? What would you advise the government?
I think that the government really needs to understand that the growth number and the inflation number themselves, they are not ends in themselves. I think when inflation is coming down, it doesn't mean that it's an end. In any case, prices are still rising. When the growth number is strong like this, it's good, but we have to understand that we are coming from a low base. So it is good, but growth has to translate into living conditions. It has to translate into people's day-to-day life, and I think that's what you have to focus on. So when you have growth number and then you have alternative numbers showing that employment is not rising, or unemployment is increasing, and then many more Ghanaians are living into or are getting into poverty, multidimensional poverty. It tells us that we have to rework the economy to work for the ordinary person. And at the moment, it looks like there's still too much foreign control of the Ghanaian economy that when we see growth numbers like this, it's not really translating into Ghanaians' living conditions. I think that's what we have to be working on.
All right, Professor Patrick Esuming, great to talk to you. It's been a while. I appreciate your time with us on the marketplace. Well, turning to one other story we are following for you. The Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Abnor Sassari, says government is working collectively with various financial institutions to increase trade finance support to Ghanaian small and medium enterprises to help them increase their production capacity. Speaking at a workshop on SME growth and opportunity sensitization program, she said government is pushing to improve innovation and meet certification standards within the sector to aid in research and develop new products to fulfill the demands of the growing market and to take advantage of the after.
The African Development Bank has also pledged $40 million for this same program. This partnership is the robust framework. This partnership is one of the robust frameworks that we have to support our Ghanaian businesses. And we will continue to consolidate the country's position as a leading hub for entrepreneurship to leverage the opportunities offered by a fully integrated AFCFTA market that will have an estimated 6.7 trillion of combined customers and business spending by 2030. As government, we will continue to place immense focus on nurturing the SMEs. This is in recognition of the integral role you play in both society and economic expansion. We have promised to stand by you, and we intend to keep that promise. At this moment, I invite you all to apply for technical and financial support through the smego.mofep.gov.gh. On our website, when you go, you see the link there.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Export and Import Bank says it will continue to put in place a strict risk management framework together with efficient monitoring strategies to ensure minimal impairment levels.
As a leading policy bank, the Ghana Export-Import Bank, championing the government of Ghana's agenda to transform the Ghanaian economy into an export-led one, we are excited to be part of the SME Go program. Under the program, our bank will be delivering a set of capacity-building programs, advisory services through a business incubator product, and loans to support the purchase of equipment and working capital to purchase your raw material, to process, add value, and to be sustainable. Over the years, the bank has made significant interventions and given support to the Ghanaian businesses in various priority sectors of the economy. In the last 7 years, the bank has made a deliberate and intentional attempt to provide various forms of support to Ghanaian SMEs, with the recent one being a capacity building program for over 100 Ghanaian SMEs by a team of experts from Thailand.
All right, you're watching The Marketplace. Coming up, thousands of job seekers have thronged the Independence Square for a jobs and entrepreneurship fair by the Youth Employment Agency. Ahead, we'll speak with Sheriff Gali, Chief Executive of the Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs. Coming up, don't go anywhere. Hi, welcome back. It's a Thursday, time to mix some business with politics. Let's hear what entrepreneurs are thinking ahead of elections. Joining me on Zoom, Sheriff Gali, who is Chief Executive of the Ghana Chamber for Young Entrepreneurs. Good afternoon to you, Sheriff. I want to start with government's SME Growth and Opportunity Program. We've been talking about it this afternoon on the marketplace. What do you make of how it's gone so far?
Good afternoon, my brother. It's been a while, so thank you for the opportunity. So, the SME Go project, honestly speaking, is laudable. It has come at a time at a very good time where SMEs need a lot of support, because if you look at the whole program set up to provide funding, technical support to SMEs, it comes at the right time. And this is not the first one of them. There have been several that we have observed from this government. However, for me, one thing I always say as a leader of young entrepreneurs and people doing business is that as we come up with new policies like this every day, have we measured the impact of the previous ones? Have we shown to the people the impact of the previous ones? Is it always necessary to come out with new programs when we haven't really seen the impact of the previous ones? But hey, somebody will say that a lot of meat does not spoil the soup, so we need them. And however, my thing or issue that I also have here with the SME Go program is that yes, government want to provide funding. I like the partnership between the Ghana Exim Bank, the Development Bank, and GE. But where is the role of the private sector? And so a lot of times we want to government implement most of these things on their own. But you see, we have to understand that we have organized private sector movements like the GUTA, like the AGI, like the Ghana Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs. What role are they playing? See, government would have to understand that you are providing funding and policy support. You need to bring in the private sector, the organized private sector, to do other part of it, which will be the mobilization. Even academia needs to play a role here. Who builds the capacity of these people? But when government wants to do everything, yes, it is them. Who else? Whosoever brings the money or pays the piper calls for the tune. It's true, but it's important that for you to have a transparent and good implementation of programs like this, you include private sector. We have been bedeviled for a long time with implementation. So people like us are not always so happy when every day we bring out policies. The point is that, are we going to implement this one right? Are we going to make it transparent? Are we going to make it easy for the SMEs? One thing I realized about this project is that the funding is supposed to be targeted for high growth SMEs. I think it's not inclusive enough, because if you look at the high growth SMEs, they are not that much. The ones that really have the numbers are the ones in the informal, and they are not high growth SMEs. We may need to open up the program to be able to target them. Aside that, we need to ensure that the application process is a bit decomplex or take away the bureaucracies. It's been a hurdle for SMEs. You know, one fund and the application process alone takes like 2-3 days for somebody to complete, and it's difficult for business. They don't really have that time. So we need to make sure that the portal that have been open, we at least make it very simple to avoid bureaucracy, and avoid third parties, guru boys, and all of those. Yeah. So generally, that role is it's a good thing, but let's implement it right this time around and ensure the money goes to SMEs that really need the support so they can grow, and not maybe affiliated and all of those SMEs. Yeah.
I mean, another policy that or program that has been started by the government, or has been running for a couple of years now, is the Jobs and Entrepreneurship Fair. And as we speak, there are thousands of job speakers at the Independence Square attending this fair. How effective is that in tackling the unemployment situation and encouraging more young people to be entrepreneurs?
Thank you very much. I think that's another good thing we need to talk about. So, once again, it's a commendable thing. There's no doubt about it that organizing job fairs to mitigate the unemployment gap is a big problem. It's good for us. But my problem is that we could have done a bit more better as a country if we could channel the funds that we use to bring these young people to a place. I have to be honest with you, I've been part of the previous ones, and you, at the end of the day, you hear numbers, 6,000 jobs were created. I don't think it's true. I remember last time when I attended one to speak, after that we saw a report, we have created 6,000 jobs. But when you ask a lot of the young people, some of your media guys were there, they asked them, did you really get any jobs? They say, oh, the private sector that were there just collected my CV and they say they will get back to me. So But, you know, we come up with figures and all of those things because, well, Ghanaians like numbers. We want to always hear numbers. But for me, what I'm saying is that we need to understand that in as much as these initiatives are not so bad, as a country, what is our target? What can we do to really solve our youth unemployment rate, as you have said? What can we do to reduce it or better still mitigate it? Are we focusing on job seekers or are we focusing on promoting job creators? So I think from where I'm sitting, entrepreneurship should be the core, where some of these funds that are wasted, sorry, with all due respect, on these elaborate programs like this should rather be channeled to upgrading the skill set of the youth, the graduate, to meet the job market, also supporting them with capital to start their businesses. So that is it. Good idea, but we need to align our priorities.
Sherry, we've got 30 seconds. I want to ask you this final question. What's the major concern for entrepreneurs with just 79 days to the election? The state of the economy?
So for us, our major concerns is at the moment is with respect to the state of the economy and how we haven't been able to have a lot of policies to allow entrepreneurs to do business very, very well in Ghana. The news and taxes, we've been crying about e-levy, COVID-19 levy, and all of those things that government doesn't listen to us. You see, they would argue that, but we give you funding. You give us funding, you give the support, but then there are taxes that are taking away all the monies that the entrepreneurs have. So at the end of the day, entrepreneurs stay at one place, cannot scale. So let us be mindful about some of the taxes and other things that are imposed on businesses. Yeah.
All right, we'll have you back sometime soon. Thank you so much, Sheriff Gali there. He's a Chief Executive of the Chamber of for Young Entrepreneurs. That's our program. Thanks for watching. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business, including 6.9% GDP growth in 2024. Q2 shows economy is recovering. That statement from the Finance Ministry. You can read more about it on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for watching. We'll be back same time tomorrow. Wow.